There are no angels in the palace, only actors, each wearing the mask that best conceals their hunger. The naive still believe that politics is a contest of ideals, but those who have ruled, truly ruled, know that it is a contest of wills. The world is not governed by virtue, it is governed by necessity. The throne does not ask whether you are good, only whether you are strong enough to sit upon it and cruel enough to keep it. To survive among wolves, you must learn their silence, their patience, their precision. You must understand that loyalty is a currency spent only by fools who do not realize it will one day be turned against them. The wise ruler keeps faith, not with people, but with the balance of power itself, shifting, adapting, and bending reality to the demands of the moment. Power is not something you have. It is something you hold trembling in your grasp, only so long as others believe you deserve it. The illusion of control must never break. For men obey appearances far more than truth, and they fear loss more than they love justice. Thus, appearances become the armor of the ambitious, and deception becomes the only form of honesty left to those who lead. The one who would endure in the political wilderness must be both fox and lion, cunning enough to sense the trap, strong enough to crush the trapper. Compassion without strength is self-destruction. Strength without wisdom is tyranny. But the balance between them, that thin, cruel balance, is the art of survival. Every state is born of violence, whether hidden or declared. Behind every law lies a sword, behind every virtue, a calculation. Those who rule with soft hands are soon devoured by those who do not pretend to have them. To command is to accept the solitude of decision, to bear the hatred of many in order to secure the peace of all. Leadership is not a prize for the virtuous. It is a burden carried by the ruthless on behalf of the ungrateful. People worship stability, but they are moved by chaos. They will beg for order while secretly craving the drama that destroys it. The ruler must therefore play both the fire and the hand that extinguishes it. Create the storm, then offer the shelter. That is how empires are built, not through truth, but through mastery of perception. Trust no one completely. Even those who kneel before you may do so to measure the distance to your throat. Fear is not cruelty, it is protection. The wise ruler understands that mercy given too freely breeds contempt, while fear, if measured and justified, commands respect. To be feared by wolves is to be safe among them. To be loved by them is to be eaten last. In the theater of power, every man performs a role, even those who believe they are free of the stage. The politician smiles while calculating. The ally embraces while plotting. The crowd cheers while sharpening the blade. And the ruler must watch them all with calm detachment, mastering the one art that separates survival from ruin. The art of seeing men as they are, not as they pretend to be. Betrayal is not the exception. It is the rhythm of power. Those who weep at it do not understand the nature of ambition. He who trusts in gratitude will perish by it, for gratitude is the shortest-lived emotion of all. The crowd forgets faster than it forgives. The minister you elevate will soon imagine himself your equal. The soldier you promote will begin to believe he could command. Therefore, govern hearts through dependence, not devotion. Let every man need you more than he resents you, and you will never be alone in your rule. The world respects one thing, the ability to act when others hesitate. The weak ponder morality, while the strong move the pieces. Fortune favors the one who seizes her by force, not the one who waits for her consent. Opportunities are rarely pure. They are mixtures of danger and desire. To hesitate is to lose both. Do not mistake peace for safety. Peace is a pause between strategies, a silence that must be filled with preparation. The ruler who trusts peace as permanence is already condemned. For beneath every treaty lies ambition, beneath every alliance, a hidden wound waiting to reopen. Thus, the ruler must live as one always ready for betrayal, always rehearsing the next move before the current one is finished. Appear humble in triumph, dignified in defeat. Both are masks, and masks are weapons. For the eyes of the crowd read gestures more than truths. Let them see what you wish them to believe. Let them think you are merciful when you restrain your vengeance, noble when you pursue your interest, fated when you are simply prepared. Power depends not on truth, but on the skill with which one controls illusion. The modern world believes itself civilized because it hides its cruelties behind laws and language. But beneath the polished speeches and democratic rituals, the same old machinery turns money, fear, ambition, control. The corporations are the new principalities, the media the new priesthood, the algorithm the new oracle. Yet the nature of man remains the same, still driven by envy, still ruled by appetite, still pretending to virtue when convenient. To understand power today, one must strip away its modern costume. The technology may have changed, but the instinct has not. The hunger to dominate, the fear of losing face, the addiction to approval, all these remain as ancient as the first city walls. The wise see beyond the surface. They understand that to lead in this age of appearances, one must master the image, not despise it, for the image has become reality's throne. The true prince is not he who commands armies, but he who commands narratives. Control the story, and you command the crowd. Influence perception, and you own the battlefield. In an age where men fight not with swords but with symbols, the ruler must become an artist of the unseen, shaping belief, sculpting opinion, weaponizing silence. Yet remember this: power devours those who worship it. It is a master that demands constant sacrifice of trust, of peace, of sleep. To hold it is to live in perpetual vigilance, where every smile conceals a test, every alliance a trap. There is no rest for the one who reigns, but neither is there dignity in being ruled. Thus, between exhaustion and submission, one must choose the former. The wolf that survives is not the strongest, but the most aware. He moves in shadows, listens in silence, waits with patience. He does not reveal hunger until he is certain of the kill. So too must the ruler learn restraint, not as virtue, but as timing. In politics, the right act at the wrong moment is as fatal as inaction. To conquer is easy. To remain unseen while preparing to conquer, that is mastery. Every empire falls, but not every ruler is forgotten. The legacy of power is not goodness, but effectiveness. History remembers not who was kind, but who was consequential. For morality is judged by the living, but destiny by the dead. Therefore, act not for the applause of the present, but for the silence of eternity. You will be hated, you will be misjudged, you will be betrayed, and still you must rule. That is the price of command. To lead is to bear the burden of appearing ruthless when you are simply realistic, of being called cruel when you are merely disciplined. Do not seek understanding, only endurance. The ruler who fears opinion has already submitted to it. The ruler who seeks affection has already surrendered power. Govern your mind as you govern your state firmly, with discipline and distance. Emotion is the enemy of strategy, conscience, the seducer of caution. You must learn to feel deeply, yet act coldly. Compassion in the heart, steel in the hand. This is how order is preserved. If the world is a jungle, then civilization is its camouflage. The strong still hunt, only now they wear suits and speak of ethics. They smile as they devour. And those who cannot see this will forever confuse mercy with weakness and diplomacy with virtue. The wise ruler plays the game as it is, not as he wishes it to be. Survival among wolves is not the preservation of innocence. It is the perfection of awareness. To live without illusions, to command without guilt, to act without hesitation, that is the final freedom of the political mind. You cannot make men better, only govern them as they are. You cannot eradicate deceit, only master its rhythm. And so, if you would walk the path of power, abandon the dream of being loved for your goodness. Seek instead to be respected for your effectiveness. Let fear be your guard, prudence your compass, and necessity your god. The world is not a place for saints. It is a stage for those who understand the cost of order. Remember this: the throne is never truly yours. You borrow it from the chaos you suppress. You sit upon it only as long as the wolves believe you cannot be replaced. So feed them enough to distract, command enough to control, and strike only when silence will no longer suffice. That is how one survives among wolves, not by taming them, but by becoming something greater, the shadow that guides their hunger, the mind that predicts their movement, the will that endures when all others submit. And when the night finally falls and the howling begins, you will not fear it. You will recognize it as the song of your own creation. Power is not a possession. It is a pulse, something that lives only when others believe in it. The instant belief fades, authority becomes illusion. Every throne, every government, every empire stands upon this fragile faith. Men obey not because they must, but because they have forgotten that they could refuse. This is why the ruler's first art is not violence, but persuasion, the crafting of a narrative so vast, so consistent, that even those who despise him participate in maintaining it. For order, even under tyranny, feels safer than chaos without a name. Understand this: most men do not seek freedom, they seek comfort. Freedom demands thought, and thought demands courage, the rarest of all virtues. The ruler's task, then, is to manage their desires, not their ideals, to promise security while quietly directing its cost. The crowd will trade liberty for the illusion of peace. And thus, the true sovereign governs not through force, but through dependency, by making the people believe that without him, the world would collapse into madness. Every era dresses its tyranny in new language. Once it was the divine right of kings, now it is the mandate of democracy, the will of the people, the market, the algorithm. Yet behind these veils, the same hands still pull the strings. Power does not vanish, it transforms. The prince has become a brand, the council a corporation, the church a network. But human nature, that incurable blend of vanity, greed, and fear, remains the same engine behind it all. The forms evolve, but the instincts endure. The wise ruler does not resist this truth, he uses it. He knows that the moral man is predictable, but the fearful man is manageable. Therefore, he cultivates appearances of moral authority while wielding fear as silent insurance. Fear, when artfully measured, is not brutality, it is structure. It prevents chaos from consuming the very order that allows men to dream. The balance is delicate. Too little, and respect decays. Too much, and rebellion brews. Power lives precisely between these poles, loved enough to be desired, feared enough to be obeyed. Never mistake virtue for strength. Virtue without power is fragility parading as goodness. The strong are rarely pure, and the pure rarely endure. The ruler must learn the alchemy of perception, how to appear just while acting expediently, how to seem compassionate while calculating gain. For morality in politics is a performance meant to secure stability. The people do not require their ruler to be good, they only require him to be useful to their illusion of justice. And once the illusion is secure, the ruler may act freely beneath its shadow. Men speak of justice as though it were a constant star, but justice shifts with fortune. What is praised in victory is condemned in defeat. What is noble in theory becomes cruelty in action. Therefore, the wise ruler acts not according to ideals, but outcomes. He measures goodness by results, not intentions. The idealist seeks to please the gods. The realist seeks to preserve the state. History remembers only the latter. Beware of the moral man who enters politics, for he will destroy what he cannot purify. The world is not redeemed through honesty, but through balance. The moralist condemns corruption while secretly envying its effectiveness. His indignation is a mask for impotence. Power requires a colder faith, one that accepts the crooked timber of mankind and learns to build with it, not against it. To demand virtue from men is to invite betrayal. To understand their vice is to govern them with precision. You must also learn the art of silence. The crowd admires words, but it obeys mystery. Say less than you know, and you will be feared more than you deserve. In the void of your silence, men will project their fears and hopes upon you, granting you power that no speech could command. The wise ruler governs perception not by excess, but by restraint. To speak constantly is to reveal weakness. To act quietly is to inspire awe. Silence is the throne upon which strength sits without effort. In the councils of the powerful, loyalty is never personal, it is conditional, purchased daily through relevance. Men follow not because they love the ruler, but because they need what he provides. When they no longer need, they no longer follow. Thus, never allow any man to believe he can live without you. Bind them through ambition, not affection. Divide their interests so they may never unite against you. Let their rivalries protect your reign. And if one grows too bold, let him fall publicly not as punishment, but as instruction. The ruler must also learn the subtle art of compassion as manipulation, not the compassion of the heart, but of the mind, the gesture that disarms suspicion, the mercy that buys time. Mercy is the softest form of strategy, for it turns enemies into debtors. A single calculated act of kindness can secure years of obedience, but sentiment is poison when it clouds judgment. The ruler's heart must feel, but his hand must remain steady. He may weep in private, but he must strike in daylight. Every generation believes it is civilized, yet civilization is merely organized savagery. The primitive tribes killed with spears, modern nations kill with policies. The slaughter is more polite, but no less real. Men still conquer, still exploit, still destroy, only now they do so in the name of progress. The wise ruler understands that human cruelty, like fire, cannot be extinguished, only directed. Better to harness it than to be consumed by it. The art of governance is the art of steering destruction toward order. When the ruler's moment of crisis arrives, and it always does, he must act without hesitation. For hesitation breeds rumor, and rumor breeds collapse. In times of uncertainty, the crowd looks for certainty, not truth. They will follow whoever appears sure, even if he is wrong. Strength, even when mistaken, commands obedience longer than virtue uncertain of itself. Therefore, do not seek perfection in decision, seek decisiveness. Better to act boldly and err than to wait wisely and vanish. Beware the intoxication of success. Fortune is a courtesan, she favors the daring for a time, but abandons them when they grow complacent. The wise ruler treats victory as a temporary guest, never a permanent ally. Celebrate nothing too loudly. The feast of triumph is always followed by the banquet of envy. Enemies multiply faster than allies. Every rise in power tightens the circle of daggers. Therefore, after victory, disappear into discipline. Rule most securely when you seem least visible. Exile teaches what power conceals, that the world's memory is short, but its ambition eternal. The same men who once knelt at your feet will offer their loyalty to your successor. Betrayal is not evil. It is motion, the eternal shifting of allegiance toward the stronger flame. Those who expect gratitude misunderstand human nature. Gratitude is the echo of fear once it fades. To rule is to command obedience without expecting loyalty in return. There will come moments when you must choose between being right and remaining in command. Choose command. For the ruler who insists on being right will lose both. Truth is a luxury for the powerless. The one who governs cannot afford purity. He must trade it for results. If deceit preserves the state, it becomes virtue. If honesty destroys it, it becomes sin. History sanctifies effectiveness, not sincerity. The great danger of rule is fatigue, the slow erosion of vigilance. Power decays from within, long before it is taken from without. The ruler who stops observing, who trusts too easily, who believes his own mythology, becomes prey. Therefore, cultivate suspicion as a discipline, not a paranoia. Doubt is the guardian of sovereignty. To question everyone is not cynicism, it is hygiene. The ruler must also understand love, for love is the mirror of fear. The people love those who reflect their strength, not their weakness. To be adored for compassion is fleeting. To be respected for discipline is enduring. Love rooted in admiration survives longer than love rooted in gratitude. The ruler who seeks to please will soon become a slave to those he governs. Rule not to be loved, but to be necessary. In the end, all power returns to perception. The sword enforces authority, but it is belief that sustains it. You may conquer with force, but you can only rule with illusion. The masses need a story, a myth, to justify their obedience. Give them one. Cloak your ambition in destiny, your strategy in principle, your manipulation in justice. They will follow willingly, thinking themselves free. The greatest victory is not in domination, but in voluntary servitude. And when you look upon the world, its shifting alliances, its endless wars disguised as diplomacy, its moral theater performed in the name of humanity. Do not despair. This is not corruption. It is the nature of man in motion. The chaos is eternal, and the ruler's task is not to abolish it, but to master its rhythm, to turn the noise into music, the blood into law, the fear into order. So walk calmly, even through betrayal. Stand firm, even in exile. Rule quietly, even when unseen. Let others chase applause. You seek control. Let them call you ruthless. You remain effective. For in the theater of power, morality is costume, loyalty is choreography, and survival is the only script that endures. Do not expect peace. Power does not rest. It only changes hands. The wolves you rule today will one day circle your throne. But if you have learned their nature, if you have mastered silence, fear, and timing, then even when they come, they will not devour you. They will serve you still, out of habit, out of awe, out of the quiet terror of a man who recognizes a stronger will. For in the end, the ruler is not the one who kills the wolves, but the one who teaches them to howl at his command. Every ruler must understand the loneliness of command. The summit is silent not because peace reigns there, but because the air is too thin for ordinary breath. You will stand surrounded by voices, yet none will speak truth. You will dine among allies who toast to your health while sharpening knives beneath the table. And yet, this solitude is not a punishment, it is the price of vision. For those who see the machinery of human nature too clearly can never again pretend it runs on virtue. They must bear the knowledge in silence, shaping the world with a steady hand while others dream of purity. The art of ruling demands a peculiar detachment. You must love humanity as a strategist loves terrain not for its beauty, but for how it can be used. To govern is to navigate through the swamp of human contradiction. The crowd's longing for justice coupled with its appetite for spectacle, its admiration for strength coupled with its hatred of superiority. The wise ruler never seeks to cure these contradictions. He balances them. He governs the tension between man's better self and his darker craving. He gives the people enough freedom to feel alive, enough control to feel safe, and enough illusion to remain obedient. You will find that people respect those who do what they themselves dare not. They resent power, yet they cannot live without it. They despise the ruler, yet they would tear each other apart without him. This paradox is eternal. Man worships what he fears, and fears what he secretly wishes to become. The ruler's task is not to resolve this, but to channel it, to turn fear into respect, envy into admiration, hatred into dependence. Control is not achieved by domination alone, but by making your enemies participate in their own submission. Never forget that ideas are more dangerous than armies. Men die for banners and slogans long after they've forgotten what they meant. Words outlive weapons and myths outlive kings. The ruler who understands this will spend less time raising soldiers and more time planting beliefs. Control the story, and you command the future. But stories decay as swiftly as empires. What once inspired becomes superstition, and what once unified becomes a reason to rebel. Therefore, renew the narrative before it collapses. Let the people believe the age is changing while the foundation remains yours. Revolution, properly managed, becomes preservation. In the theater of statecraft, appearances are not deception, they are defense. To reveal everything is to die. Secrecy, discretion, and ambiguity are not cowardice but armor. Let others exhaust themselves in explanation. You remain unreadable. The ruler who speaks plainly makes himself predictable, and predictability is the death of command. Speak to all, promise to none, and let your true intention exist only in motion. The less they understand, the more they will fear. The modern prince must learn to rule not by decree, but by influence. Authority now travels through invisible veins, through screens, symbols, markets, narratives. It is no longer enough to hold the sword. You must hold attention. The crowd no longer fears armies, it fears irrelevance. To dominate minds, one must understand the theater of distraction. Feed the masses images, not truths. Give them conflict to discuss, idols to praise, enemies to hate. While they rage at the shadows you cast, move silently behind them. This is how one governs in an age of noise, not by shouting louder, but by controlling what is worth hearing. Power, when properly understood, is not possession, it is leverage. The wise ruler never grips power too tightly, for what is clenched cannot breathe. Let others think they share it, distribute it like oxygen, but keep control of the lungs. Let ministers argue, generals scheme, and advisors whisper. Encourage their ambitions, for ambition divides. A court united in loyalty is dangerous. A court divided in self-interest is secure. The ruler must be the axis around which rivalries spin, their hatred for one another greater than any they might feel toward him. Do not wage every battle. Choose those whose victories multiply your influence. The greatest commanders are not those who conquer the most, but those who conquer at the right moment. Timing is the hidden weapon of power. Fortune does not favor the strong, she favors the prepared. The ruler who moves before necessity is foolish, the one who hesitates until certainty is lost. The secret lies in striking while still uncertain, guided not by clarity, but by instinct honed through suffering. Every hesitation invites a rival. Every moment of doubt creates a vacuum that hungers for another's will. The discipline of statecraft is endurance, not brilliance, not passion endurance. Most rulers fall not from defeat, but from exhaustion. They mistake calm for safety and confusion for collapse. But politics is a tide. It recedes to gather strength. The moment you grow complacent, the moment you rest upon reputation, the current turns. Rule as if every dawn begins your reign anew. For power is not inherited. It is reasserted daily through the quiet violence of decision. Learn to live as both participant and observer. Feel the heat of conflict, but think with the coldness of distance. This duality of heart and calculation separates leaders from survivors. You must be able to kill affection when it threatens strategy, and resurrect charm when it serves conquest. There will be moments when mercy and cruelty weigh equally in your hand. Choose the one that endures longest. For the ruler's morality is not measured by the comfort of conscience, but by the continuity of order. Beware of hope. It is the sweetest drug and the deadliest. Hope blinds rulers more than fear blinds the ruled. It makes one believe that fortune can be trusted, that men can be loyal, that peace can last. Hope is the opiate of power. The wise ruler replaces hope with preparation, replaces trust with verification, replaces faith with control. A kingdom ruled by optimism is already under siege. Those who speak of equality in politics speak of fire without smoke. Power demands hierarchy. The world demands structure. Even in democracies, where men pretend to rule themselves, the hidden hierarchy remains. It is not abolished, only disguised. Behind every system lies an order of dominance, subtle yet absolute. The ruler's genius is not to destroy this order, but to shape it, to direct its flow so that those who think themselves free unknowingly reinforce the architecture of control. There will come a day when the wolves circle closer, when fortune turns her face and the crowd murmurs your name in past tense. On that day, you must remember, no throne is eternal, but dignity can be. Die as one who governed necessity, not as one who begged mercy from chaos. The wise ruler does not cling to his seat when the music stops. He stands, bows, and leaves before the applause ends. To fall with control is to remain untouchable. To linger in denial is to be devoured by the beasts you once commanded. In the end, all rule ends the same, not in triumph, but in silence. What remains is not the ruler, but the pattern he imposed on time. The cities may crumble, the statues may fade, but the rhythm of his choices will echo in the machinery he left behind. For power, once expressed, becomes architecture unseen but indestructible, woven into the habits of men. The wise ruler does not chase immortality. He builds systems that remember him long after his name is forgotten. And so, if you must rule, rule with eyes open. Govern not from passion, but from perception. Command not for glory, but for continuity. Let your enemies call you ruthless. Let history call you inevitable. For the only true sin in politics is weakness, and the only virtue that endures is control. When the world calls you wolf, Do not protest. The lambs will curse your teeth until they need your protection. And when that day comes, when the fires rise, when the mob devours its prophets, they will look to you again, the silent predator who held the chaos at bay. Smile then, but say nothing. For to survive among wolves, one must never apologize for hunger. One must only ensure that hunger is never without purpose. And in that final solitude, as the night settles and the fires of ambition burn low, you will understand what few ever do. That power was never about ruling others. It was about mastering yourself. The world is the mirror of your will. Command it, and it obeys. Fear it, and it consumes. But endure it, and it bends. This is the secret written in every empire's ashes. Only those who have walked through betrayal, silence, and solitude without losing composure truly deserve to rule. Power, in its purest form, is not conquest but containment. It is the quiet mastery of forces that would otherwise consume their wielder. Those who rise quickly in the fire of ambition often burn in the same flame that lifts them. The wise ruler learns to slow the rhythm of his own hunger, to temper instinct with calculation, to delay satisfaction for the sake of survival. He understands that power cannot be drunk like wine. It must be distilled like poison, drop by drop, with precision, patience, and purpose. For intoxication blinds faster than defeat, and the one who loses sight of proportion will mistake his shadow for an empire. The most dangerous illusion in politics is permanence. To believe that control can be secured forever is to invite decay. Everything in power breathes, it expands, contracts, mutates. The moment a ruler mistakes stability for eternity, he begins to rot from within. Laws grow stale, systems fossilize, loyalties fade into habit. The ruler must therefore govern as if every day were the first, not with naivete, but with vigilance. Renewal is not idealism, it is self-defense. To rule well is to destroy parts of your own creation before time does it for you. There are moments when the ruler must appear human, to weep with the crowd, to feign uncertainty, to display the trembling of conscience. But these are gestures, not confessions. A ruler who truly reveals his heart is already conquered. Sympathy must be simulated, not surrendered. The people crave emotion because it reassures them of their own. Give them tears if they demand them, but keep your judgment dry. The ruler's mercy must never compromise the architecture of fear that secures his reign. For men love those who comfort them, but they follow those who command them. Understand that truth is a weapon too sharp for the hands of the masses. They neither want it nor can wield it without chaos. They crave the lie that flatters their sense of decency, the illusion that allows them to sleep. The ruler's task is not to expose reality, but to manage it, to present the unbearable in forms they can consume. This is not deceit, it is mercy. Civilization survives only through the artful concealment of its own brutality. Those who attempt to govern with naked truth will find themselves torn apart by the very people they sought to enlighten. Every betrayal you endure is a lesson in anatomy, the anatomy of human desire. Men betray not out of malice, but out of necessity. The instinct to preserve the self surpasses every oath. Thus, expect disloyalty as you expect winter. It is not failure, it is nature. The wise ruler builds his house not upon the loyalty of others, but upon the predictability of their fear and the geometry of their ambition. When you understand what each man hungers for, his betrayal ceases to surprise you. He becomes a function in your design, his treachery a movement in your symphony of control. You will learn, in time, that enemies are more reliable than friends. Friends expect favors, enemies expect nothing but strength. It is better to be feared by the deceitful than loved by the weak. Love softens the spine. Fear sharpens the mind. The wise ruler does not aim to be adored, he aims to be irreplaceable. Let the people hate you if they must, so long as they depend on you. They will curse your name and yet defend your rule, for in your survival lies their illusion of stability. Every institution begins as necessity and ends as theater. The ruler who forgets this becomes the actor in his own illusion. Tradition is not sacred, it is strategic. It exists to bind generations to the same obedience under a different name. Rituals are not relics, they are instruments. The crown, the anthem, the flag, the vote, these are the costumes of order, each disguising submission as participation. The wise ruler maintains these symbols, not because he believes in them, but because others must. He knows that even the strongest empire is sustained by a shared hallucination. Never rule through hatred. Hatred breeds chaos, and chaos has no master. Govern through inevitability. Make obedience feel natural, resistance feel futile. This is how one rules a free world, without ever raising a blade. Domination is not violence, it is persuasion perfected. When men police their own thoughts in the name of virtue, the ruler has no need for prisons. He has built his control into their conscience. In the dark hours of solitude, when the crowd's applause has faded and the weight of decision returns to your chest, you will question whether the game was worth its toll. The faces of those you sacrificed will visit you in silence. The ghosts of opportunity, of innocence, of love, will linger at the edges of your mind. But understand this: remorse is a luxury reserved for the powerless. The ruler who doubts the necessity of his actions after they are done weakens the very structure he built. There is no redemption in politics, only continuity. What is done must remain done. To waver is to invite the chaos you once subdued. You will be tempted by the idea of rest, of stepping away from vigilance, of returning to the simplicity of anonymity. Resist it. For the moment you cease to guard power, power will guard itself against you. It has no loyalty to its wielder. The throne consumes its occupant as fire consumes wood, each flame believing itself immortal until the ash reminds it otherwise. The only true rest a ruler finds is in mastery, the mastery of self, of impulse, of time. There is no peace in power, only rhythm, a pulse of danger and reprieve, tension and release. The wise ruler learns to move with it, not against it. He does not seek peace, for peace is stagnation. He seeks harmony, the equilibrium between danger and control. Like a seasoned commander, he knows that calm seas produce no sailors, and easy victories breed complacency. He thrives on the edge of disorder, for there lies the truth of command. Legacy is the illusion of the dead who still wish to rule. Do not live for statues or songs. History will not remember you as you were. It will remember what you symbolize to those who came after. Your name will be rewritten to suit the purposes of the living. Accept this. The wise ruler does not seek immortality through memory, but through influence. He does not care to be praised by future generations. He cares that the structures he forged continue to dictate their world. The highest form of rule is invisibility. When men obey laws without recalling the hand that wrote them, when they pursue their ambitions along paths you paved without knowing your name, you have achieved the purest power. To be unseen, and yet unavoidable, that is sovereignty perfected. The true master does not sit upon the throne. He becomes the air the throne breathes. And yet, beneath all calculation, there remains a final truth, one even the most cunning prince cannot escape. Power is fleeting, but the discipline it requires is eternal. The world belongs not to the bold, but to the awake. To see men as they are and still command them, to endure solitude without bitterness, to carry the weight of rule without self-pity, this is greatness stripped of glamour. It is not the glory sung by poets, but the quiet strength carved into the bones of history. So when the last decree has been signed, when your armies fade into dust, when your name dissolves into myth, you will find yourself alone again, as all rulers do. Alone, with the echo of decisions that built the world and broke your soul. And in that silence, you will understand, survival among wolves was never about domination. It was about discipline, about mastering the animal within you so completely that no other beast could touch you. And as the night folds over the ruins of ambition, you will stand where all power ends, not in glory, not in despair, but in clarity. The world will go on, hungry and blind as ever. New wolves will rise, new thrones will burn. But somewhere in the machinery of their struggle, your design will endure unseen, unthanked, unbroken. For though the prince may fall, the principle remains. Only those who see without illusion, act without hesitation, and endure without mercy truly survive among wolves. Consider the ruler who governs a city consumed by abundance. The people have food, safety, and distraction. In such comfort, rebellion does not emerge from hunger but from boredom. Prosperity breeds the illusion of equality, and equality breeds contempt for hierarchy. The ruler must therefore create movement within stillness, new fears, new rivalries, new ambitions to absorb the restlessness of plenty. He allows minor crises to flare like controlled burns in a forest, preventing greater fires. He may summon the illusion of an external enemy or a looming scarcity, not to deceive maliciously, but to preserve the very order that abundance threatens to dissolve. For men united against an imagined danger remain loyal longer than those left to the luxury of peace. In another kingdom, the ruler faces a different test, one of divided faith. The people no longer share a single god, but many. Some worship tradition, others progress, some the market, others the self. To rule such a fractured world requires not conversion, but synthesis. The ruler does not choose a side. He becomes the mirror in which all sides see their reflection. When one group cries oppression, he gives them representation. When another demands purity, he grants them spectacle. He governs not through truth, but through equilibrium, each faction believing it has triumphed, while in truth, none have moved. In this way, he rules a house divided by keeping every wall at equal distance from collapse. In a corporate empire, far from palaces and parliaments, the modern prince wears a smile instead of a crown. His subjects are not citizens, but consumers. He governs through convenience, a softer chain than iron, yet far stronger. He offers them ease in exchange for obedience, comfort in exchange for control. Their data becomes his treasury, their desires his army. He does not command by decree, he whispers through algorithms. Every choice they believe they make is one he has already anticipated, and yet they love him because he makes them feel seen. Thus, he achieves what kings could not, voluntary servitude disguised as freedom. A ruler of a fragile republic faces another dilemma, the burden of transparency. His enemies demand accountability, his allies demand secrecy. The masses want to see but cannot bear the sight. He learns the art of selective exposure, revealing just enough to appear honest, hiding just enough to remain in power. When scandal threatens him, he sacrifices a loyal subordinate, allowing the crowd to feast upon a scapegoat while he remains untouchable. The appearance of justice is more stabilizing than justice itself. He knows that the people do not want truth. They want the illusion that truth is being served. In the shadows of an empire's decline, another ruler watches his generals grow richer and his provinces more independent. He senses rebellion not in words, but in hesitation. To crush them all would be to drain his last strength. To trust them would be suicide, so he sets them against each other. He promotes one to provoke jealousy, praises another to incite suspicion. He becomes the absent father whose children destroy one another to prove loyalty. By the time the dust settles, he no longer needs to act. Their ambition has performed his vengeance for him. In times of revolution, the wise ruler learns that destruction wears the costume of virtue. The mob does not seek justice, it seeks release. It burns not what is evil, but what is near. Thus, he steps aside just long enough for chaos to exhaust itself. He lets the purists devour one another until only exhaustion remains. Then he returns, not as tyrant, but as savior. The crowd, weary of its own freedom, welcomes his order as deliverance. He rebuilds the ruins they created and calls it reform. The very men who sought to erase his reign now rebuild his image in gratitude. In the court of diplomacy, the ruler knows that every treaty is a dagger sheathed in parchment. His ambassadors speak of peace while mapping invasion routes. He smiles in council while calculating betrayal, yet he is not cynical, only realistic. He knows that harmony between states is an intermission between rivalries. To maintain peace, he must pretend it exists. And so, he cultivates the art of deliberate ambiguity, never promising, never denying, never standing still. In this stillness lies his power. For while others rush to define their intentions, he remains unreadable, his silence a fortress no negotiation can breach. In the digital age, Influence replaces territory. The ruler of the future commands not through soldiers, but through attention. His armies are followers, his weapons, narratives. One word spreads faster than 10 legions could march. A well-crafted image can conquer more minds than 100 victories. Yet this battlefield demands constant vigilance. Today's ally becomes tomorrow's scandal, today's hero tomorrow's villain. The ruler of attention must master the art of perpetual reinvention, never defending the old image, always building the next. He survives not by loyalty, but by momentum. There exists a subtler kingdom, the realm of culture. Here the ruler is not a politician, but a storyteller, not a monarch, but a mythmaker. He shapes what people find beautiful, what they find shameful, what they call true. He knows that laws may command bodies, but myths command souls. Through art, through media, through the slow rhythm of repetition, he defines what is imaginable. And once he controls imagination, he no longer needs force. Men will imprison themselves in ideas they mistake for liberation. In another corner of the world, a young leader inherits chaos. His people are proud, but divided. His coffers empty, his enemies cunning. He understands that he cannot lead by command alone. He must lead by myth. So, he crafts a story of destiny, not his, but theirs. He gives their suffering a purpose, their poverty a meaning. He turns humiliation into identity, hardship into holiness. And in that transformation, he binds them. They will die for him not because they love him, but because he has made them love themselves through him. Such is the most sophisticated form of rule, to become the mirror in which a nation worships its own reflection. Then there are those who govern through decay, rulers who no longer believe in the world they control. They maintain appearances, as one might keep the lights burning in an abandoned house. Their speeches are empty, their institutions hollow. Yet even in this stage, the machinery of power continues on inertia. It does not need belief, it only needs obedience. The people, too tired to imagine alternatives, continue to march. The ruler merely watches, an actor in a play he can no longer end. In such an age, the only true act of genius is withdrawal, the ability to vanish without collapse, to leave power standing even as its master departs. And then there is the rarest ruler of all, the one who governs not through fear, love, or manipulation, but through comprehension. He sees the world as a labyrinth of necessity, each cruelty, each deception, each kindness a function of design. He acts not out of greed, but out of recognition that chaos must be shaped, or it will consume all. His rule is cold yet calm, ruthless yet fair. He kills not for pleasure, but for proportion. His mercy is measured, his justice impersonal. In his reign, men do not cheer, but they sleep in peace. He does not promise paradise, he ensures continuity. And when he dies, the world continues as though he had never existed, which is the ultimate proof that he ruled perfectly. For power, at its highest form, leaves no trace. It does not shout, it whispers through systems. It does not demand recognition, it becomes structure. It does not depend on the will of men, but on the habits it creates. The ruler who achieves this vanishes from history, yet lives eternally in its machinery. He becomes the invisible author of the future, a ghost that governs nations through laws, customs, and instincts that no one remembers how to disobey. And this, perhaps, is the final secret of survival among wolves. Not to fight them endlessly, but to teach them a rhythm so precise that even in your absence, they continue to move as if guided by your hand. The ultimate power is not to command presence, but to command perpetuity. When your will becomes their instinct, when your logic becomes their law, when your silence becomes their pattern, then you have achieved what no conqueror, no tyrant, no emperor ever could: immortality without existence. In the end, to survive among wolves is to abandon the fantasy of innocence. The world is not a sanctuary, it is an arena where instincts wear masks of civility, and kindness is a language of strategy. The one who survives is not the loudest, nor the most virtuous, but the one who understands the rhythm of danger without losing clarity. He does not waste breath begging the wolves to change. He studies their nature until their hunger becomes predictable. To survive among them, you must cease being prey, not by becoming a beast, but by mastering the logic that governs the pack. You must learn to see through eyes that no longer flinch at betrayal, no longer tremble before deceit. You must know when to move, when to disappear, when to let silence do your speaking. A wolf that survives every hunt does so, not through brutality, but through awareness, a kind of ruthless patience that watches without emotion, calculates without haste, and strikes only when necessity demands. That is the discipline of survival, the politics of instinct. Power, after all, is not about conquest. It is about endurance, the ability to remain unmoved while the world convulses with noise. It is to walk through the ruins of loyalties and illusions without bitterness, knowing that human nature changes its clothes but never its appetite. It is to wear your mask without forgetting the face beneath it, to command the game without believing in it. To survive among wolves, one must live as both participant and observer inside the hunt, yet above it. So let others dream of virtue and lament corruption. Let them imagine a world ruled by purity. You, instead, will see the world as it is raw, shifting, and eternal. You will not seek peace, but balance, not applause, but command. You will walk through the dark forest of ambition, with eyes unclouded by sentiment, guided by the single truth that sustains all power. Survival is not cruelty, it is clarity. And when the last illusion falls, when the night echoes with the howls of those who never learned to see, you will remain standing calm, patient, unbroken, not because you conquered the wolves, but because you learned their nature and mastered your own.